I started keeping reptiles over a decade ago. I did a lot of research before I got my first one, which happened to be a bearded dragon, but there's still a lot of things I wish I knew first. So, today let's go over the top 5 things I wish that I knew before I got into reptiles. My name's Adam, this is Diamond, you're watching Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles, stick around. Number 5. I wish I knew where to buy feeders. Now this seems simple. You go to PetSmart, Petco, your local reptile shop to buy feeders. Very simple. Not really though, because there's always cheaper options. And this is more for people who have a growing collection. Like if you have one bearded dragon and you want to go and buy, 10 crickets or a day or every other day, or you want to buy a bulk batch of 100 crickets, it's not going to break the bank. But if you've got, say, 13 leopard geckos like I do, or you have, 70 reptiles as a collection, 50-something snakes because you breed them, whatever, this is an extreme example, it's going to get really expensive to buy mice and rats at a Petco. Really expensive. My suggestion is always to find someone who breeds in their basement or has a facility or has a business, a local business that breeds rats, mice, insects, whatever it is that you need to feed. Quail is another one. And I got a guy who lives the town over and he delivers to my house. And just to give you an example, if I were to buy from the local PetSmart a rat, a medium-sized rat is going to be over twice the price of what I get from this guy. Frozen thawed. So it just makes more sense. And also, I'm not supporting PetSmart. I'm supporting my local friendly neighborhood guy who breeds rats in his basement because he loves reptiles for himself, not some conglomerate that likes money a lot, more than animals, probably. So to make it really simple, I would just suggest to find someone, and it might be just your reptile shop. Your reptile shop might be this person, right? I have a reptile shop around me who also sells at a very fair price. I'm just lucky that because I buy in bulk, I got a guy who will sell them for even cheaper. But in most cases, especially if you've got a small collection or even a single animal, you can buy from someone like that. Save yourself a bucket of money. The fourth thing that I wish I knew before I got into reptiles, not everything you buy has to be made for reptiles. And I know a lot of people get trapped into this right at the beginning and they go to a pet store, probably a Petco, PetSmart, whatever, and they buy whatever brand, Exoterra, Zoo Med, these are both great companies. I'm not, taking a dump on the companies, but you don't need to buy a water dish that costs $10 because it looks like a rock for your animal. You can, it works fine, but you can also buy a clay dish, something for a clay pot, like a saucer, for 50 cents at the dollar store that does the same job. You don't need to buy fake foliage that costs $15 at your PetSmart. You can go to the dollar store and buy the same thing for $3. There's ways to save money, even lights. I know that lighting is very important, so UVBs, never skimp out, don't buy some cheap UVB, but in terms of basking, if you have an animal that needs a 50-watt basking bulb, for example, you don't need to go and pay $7 or $10 at a reptile store for one branded for reptiles. If all you're looking for is heat, $2.50 at the dollar store buys you a 50-watt halogen light. Back from the reptile store, got our light, and we got to put it in. And by the way, these are Canadian prices, so US, it's a lot cheaper. I buy very little that is branded for reptiles. There are certain things, like I said, UVB lights, snake hooks, some things you do have to buy, and even snake hooks you can make yourself, but in general, most things that you buy for your reptiles, even hides, make an overturned flower pot into a hide, and it looks kind of cool actually as well. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with buying a Zoo Med or Exoterra or whatever branded hide or anything. They're fine. They work just great, but they're also marked up a lot because they're going after people like you who thinks that's what you need. And if you like the aesthetic, well, we can move on to the next thing. But if you want to save some money and still have your enclosure look pretty darn good and be outfitted just fine for your animal, hit the dollar store, hit a Michael's, hit something like that, a craft store. There are other places you can go. And again, even if it's not a reptile thing, sometimes at expos, which are for reptiles, you have people who make these things. So sure, it's reptile branded, but it's not from a big company who's going to charge you a bunch of money for something that you can pay a quarter of the price for. And that really goes into number 3, which is starter kits are useless. Now, I'm going a little bit hard here. I don't think that starter kits are always useless. I think that there are good examples, and Exoterra makes some really good ones, and I think Zoo Med does too. But You don't need to keep your animal in a fish tank, which is basically what these things are. I mean, Exoterra has the front opening ones, and I use these. I love these enclosures, but there are better options. For example, you'll see a starter kit for ball pythons, and it's usually like a 55-gallon enclosure or equivalent, which isn't big enough in my opinion for a full-grown ball python anyway. So you can do other things. For example, PVC enclosures is a great example. And this isn't about saving money, just what's better for the animal. And it does save you money sometimes too. So if you can find a second-hand PVC because you're on a budget, you can probably find one of those for cheaper than the kit that you're going to buy with everything in it. Hit the dollar store, get your water bowl, fake foliage, whatever. Buy yourself on Amazon. There's a link in the description, a hydrometer, I'll say it right this time, and a thermometer that's digital and high quality. You can buy your substrate at a hardware store. So basically what I'm trying to say here is you don't need to go and buy whatever the guy in the blue shirt tells you that you got to buy. If it's not about money and you just want the highest quality, get a cages enclosure. Yes, they do kick me a couple cents if you use the promo code below and use the link to go buy one. The reason that I promote them is because their enclosure is the best one that I have. I have lots of these enclosures. By far, Cages is the best. When I put the thing together, I was completely shocked. Link in the description below if you want to get one. Perfect from bearded dragons to ball pythons to anything else in a whole bunch of sizes. Or if you want something that isn't necessarily beautiful looking, but you just want something that's the best for your animal. Let's suppose that you get toads, like I have spadefoot toads. These guys need a higher humidity and they don't really need a lot of light. They don't need a ton of light coming in because they're known for burrowing. So they will get a light cycle still, but I keep them in a Tupperware enclosure. So you could do that too. You don't need to buy something fancy from a store. You can buy a Tupperware enclosure, which is $15 for a Sterilite one like this, and you're gonna find those at Walmart. So I guess I'm rambling here. You don't need to buy starter kits. They're kind of useless, but not really. You don't need them. Number 2, and this is one that I actually kind of like. If you get into reptiles, prepare to be the reptile guy, or reptile girl, or reptile person, whatever.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm
Be the reptile guy.
No.
You're gonna be the person that has this weird, well, I guess kind of unique type of fascination with animals that aren't super popular most of the time. And the more rural you are, I find the more weird it is for people to, have a snake collection. But even here, I live in a pretty occupied area, right? Not a big city, but definitely a metro type area. And I'm the snake guy. I am. Everywhere I go, anywhere I've ever worked, I am the reptile guy. So be prepared to be asked a lot of questions. People will tell you all the time that your snake is sizing you up when you sleep because it wants to eat you. And I did a whole video about how ridiculous that is right here if you want to watch it. But you're going to be the reptile person. It's just going to be your new identity. It is the way it is. This isn't if you get one reptile and you never talk about it. But if you're constantly posting pictures, which why wouldn't you? Because reptiles are freaking awesome. And you make an Instagram account for your reptiles, or you start a YouTube channel, whatever. You're going to be the reptile person. This isn't like, I wish I knew because it's annoying. It just, I don't know, it kind of blends into the next one. So let's just round it off with the number one thing that I wish I knew before I got my first reptile. You're going to want more. And when you get more, you're going to want more. You're always going to want more. And here's the thing. There will be a point when you realize I can't get more, and that should be right away. After your first reptile, you should realize I need to do some research. I can't just be going on Kijiji or Craigslist and just adding to my collection, going to an expo and bringing one home. You should always know at an expo or wherever you go, your pet store, your reptile shop, you don't have to come home with another animal. Some people take a while to learn this. But like anything else that is addictive, you get your first tattoo and all of a sudden now your whole arm is covered with tattoos and your whole, basically the half side of your body. It's just one of those things with reptiles where you want more and more because they're so interesting and so unique. My bearded dragon is not like my ball pythons, but I love them both. My bearded dragon is similar to a blue-tongued skink, but still, I'll always have a blue-tongued skink and a bearded dragon because they're so different. It's just, you're always going to want more. I just wish that I knew at the beginning how to say no, because once you build some sort of audience, whether it's on just Facebook with your friends, you kind of like become a rescue. Hey man, I heard you have reptiles and I get this bearded dragon, probably sick, that I don't want anymore, so you can have them. And you're going to be like, of course, no problem. I haven't researched bearded dragons at all. I better get on Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles and watch the care guide that's right here. You're going to find yourself in those situations. So I guess the last two things here, I'm trying to like fill out a list to make it a top 5, but the first 3 things are super important in my opinion. So really, I could have made this video pretty short. Get someone who breeds in their basement or runs their own business and support them. You don't need to buy reptile brands. You don't need to buy the kits that Zoo Med and Exoterra sell unless you want to. They're great and everything. You're going to be the reptile person and you're going to want more. Simple as that. I want to say thank you to the Patreon supporters. It was one of you guys who actually came up with this idea. Every week, I let these videos out early for Patreon supporters. There's some really exciting stuff coming that is just for Patreon, discounts on the merch, things like that. You get your name on the screen like this. Hit up below if you want to know what I use to make these videos. There's affiliate links in the I make a couple cents, but people ask all the time down there, and the cages link as well. If you want the best cage that money can buy for your reptiles, it's down there, and I've plugged everything now. Hit subscribe. See you on Thursday.